The ring box is smaller than I expected when I bought it. I keep thinking about that while I stand at the edge of the stage, waiting for my name, listening to the ceremony move through its final hour with the specific slowness of things that are supposed to feel significant. The box fits in my palm. Velvet exterior, slightly worn at the left corner from 3 weeks of carrying it everywhere, taking it out at night and putting it back in the morning, rehearsing the moment in every version of my imagination. Tonight is the version that is real. Mira stands near the front of the hall with Priya and someone I don't know, laughing at something, her hair the way she wears it when she wants to feel like herself rather than like anyone's idea of her. I know the difference. I have spent 2 years learning the difference. That is the kind of knowing I have been building toward this moment. Professor Sin calls my name. I walk across the stage on legs that work by some mechanism I am not consciously operating. The diploma goes into my hand. Sin shakes it, nods, says something I don't hear over the blood in my ears. I smile for the photographer. I walk to the microphone that every graduating student gets 30 seconds at for a personal statement. This was supposed to be the moment. I reach into my pocket. The box is there. I look out at the hall, 400 people arranged in the specific social geometry of graduation ceremonies, families and friends and faculty all pointed at the stage with the mild attention of people who have been sitting for 2 hours and are almost at the finish line. I find Mira. She has turned to look at me now, which means she knows something is happening, which means she is already deciding what expression to arrange. I'm not good at reading that expression yet. I should have been better at reading it. Mira, I say into the microphone, and my voice comes out clearer than I expected, which is the body's gift to idiots in love. I had a speech prepared. I had it written out and memorized, and I said it to my ceiling approximately 40 times. A small uncertain sound from the audience, not quite laughter, not quite silence. But the real thing I want to say is just this. You are the reason I got through this year. You are the reason I stayed when it was hard and worked when I didn't want to and believed the work was worth doing. I love you. I open the box. And I would like the rest of my life to be something we build together. The hall goes quiet with the specific quality of 400 people holding the same breath. Mira walks to the stage. I think she is walking toward me. She takes the microphone from the stand. She looks at me with an expression I cannot read, which I will spend considerable time afterward understanding was not an accident, and she says, Arif. Into the microphone. Into the whole room. You're not even worth a yes. The breath releases. But it does not release the way held breath releases after something beautiful. It releases the way pressure releases when something structural fails. The ring box is still open in my hand. From somewhere in the middle of the hall, Kunal stands up. Kunal. My best friend since the first week of university, who I sat next to in every lecture that mattered, who I sent drafts to at midnight, who told me last Tuesday that he was proud of me. He's been using my work all year, Kunal says loudly enough for the room. His project, his thesis chapter, half of what he submitted. It was mine. The room turns on me. Not all at once, but in the way of a room when the wind changes, a gradual unanimous reorientation. I watch it happen from the stage with the ring box still open in my palm. I watch Professor Sin in the front row, whose expression moves from confusion to something I have never wanted to see aimed at me, which is disappointment of the specific kind that means a belief has been revised. Mira, I say. She has already moved back from the microphone. She is talking to Priya. She is not looking at me. Don't make this dramatic, she says without turning around. I close the ring box. I do not remember walking off the stage. I remember the side door and the cold and the specific quality of outdoor air after 2 hours inside a heated hall, and then the street, and then the way the sound of everything behind me gets smaller but doesn't disappear. I hear her voice even here. Not the words. Just the register of it. Bright and easy and unbothered. Myra's voice when she is certain of her own position. I step off the curb. I'm not thinking about the road. I am thinking about 2 years, which is a strange thing to think about in the moment before headlights fill your vision. But the mind does what it does, and what mind does is compress everything into the weight of the ring box cracking against the pavement as my hand opens. The sound of the box hitting the ground is the last specific thing I identify. After that, white. After that, a silence that doesn't have any of her laughter in it, which is both a mercy and the saddest thing I have ever felt. After that, nothing for a while, which is what death is when it comes without warning, without preparation, without even the dignity of a full thought to close out on. Just the ring box. Just the velvet, cracked at the corner. Just the road. I wake up choking on air that isn't there. My hands go to my chest before my eyes open, pressing flat against my sternum like I can hold something in that is trying to leave, and I breathe in one ragged pull and then another, and then I am sitting upright in my bed in the dark with my heart doing something architectural and wrong and my body convinced it is still on a road. The room is my room. I check this systematically, the way you check things when you cannot trust your own processing. The desk with the uneven leg I have been meaning to fix since second year. The shelf with the textbooks arranged by color because Ria reorganized them during a visit and I never changed them back. The crack in the ceiling above the window that looks like a river delta if you stare at it in the right light. My room. I am in my bed. I am alive. I look at the bedside table. The ring box is not there. I look for it with the specific urgency of someone who needs to confirm an absence, checking the drawer, the floor beside the table, under the pillow where I sometimes put things I do not want to lose. Not there. What is there is a watch. My watch. The one with the brown leather strap that I have owned since my 18th birthday, which my father gave me with the specific ceremony of a man who believes objects can carry meaning if you let them. I pick it up. The face is cracked from the right edge to the center, a clean diagonal line, and the hands are stopped. I read the time the hands are stopped at. I sit with that for a moment. I put the watch down carefully like it is evidence, which it is. The calendar on my phone, when I unlock it, takes a second to load and then sits there telling me something I already know from the feel of the room and the smell of the air and the specific quality of a morning that is 1 year earlier than the morning I remember dying on. 1 year. I have 1 year. I hold the phone until the screen dims and then I sit in the dark and do the accounting that the situation requires. Not the emotional accounting, I cannot afford that yet, but the practical kind. What I know. What I have. What I can do differently. I know what Mira will do. I know what Kanal will do. I know how the year builds toward a stage and a microphone and a ring box cracking on pavement. I know, for the first time, what the end of trust looks like when it is still at the beginning. College looks the same. This is the thing that keeps hitting me as I walk through the campus in the particular morning light of a year I have already lived, the sameness of it. The same coffee cart outside the main building. The same bulletin board outside the department office with the same category of flyers. The same specific quality of students moving between buildings with the energy of people who have not yet discovered how the year ends. I find Mira before she finds me, which is the first time in 2 years I have been in the position of finding rather than waiting to be found. She is with Kanal near the library steps. I watch them from the far side of the path, far enough that I am not visible, close enough that I can see the easy comfort of their body language. The way Kanal leans toward something she says. The way she laughs and touches his arm in that automatic way of people who have been comfortable with each other for longer than I knew. My stomach does something I do not have a clean word for. Not jealousy exactly. Something more precise. The feeling of looking at a scene and knowing its ending and understanding that you once looked at this same scene and saw something entirely different because you were standing inside your own story rather than outside it. I trusted them. Both of them. Completely and without the kind of skepticism that protects you. I gave Mira 2 years of the specific vulnerability of someone who loves without conditions, and I gave Kanal the access that comes with calling someone your best friend, which means files and drafts and midnight conversations about work that should have stayed mine. I died for that trust. Not metaphorically. I make myself go to class. I sit in the correct seat and I take notes with the hand that still remembers the muscle memory of a year I have already lived, and I keep my face in the arrangement of a person who is fine, which is the performance I am apparently now in the business of giving. After the afternoon lecture I go home. Ria is in the kitchen when I come in, which means she is visiting for the week, which I had forgotten until this moment and which my body responds to with a relief I was not expecting. She looks at me across the kitchen with the specific attention of a younger sister who has always been better at reading rooms than I am. You look strange, she says. Thank you, I say. Not a compliment, she says. Strange, like something happened. Long day, I say. My mother comes in from the hallway, looks at me once and says, "You look like you saw a ghost." I'm fine, I say. I'm not fine, but fine is load-bearing right now. The chest pain starts at 9:47. Not severe, sharp and specific, the kind that demands attention. My mother notices before I say anything because she notices everything, and 20 minutes later we are in the hospital with me on a monitor and my mother's hand wrapped around mine with the grip of someone who is performing calm while feeling the opposite. The doctor says stress and dehydration and not to catastrophize. I lie on the hospital bed and stare at the ceiling and think about all the things I did not say in the year I already lived. All the moments I arranged myself around other people's comfort instead of my own truth. I think about the watch on my bedside table. The cracked face. The stopped hands. I think about Myra's voice on the stage. Not even worth a yes. I think about Kanal standing up in the hall. And something in me that has been soft in the specific way of people who love too openly and protect themselves too little makes a decision that does not announce itself loudly. It just becomes true. I look at the ceiling. This time, I say quietly enough that my mother doesn't hear it over the sound of the monitor, I won't beg. I breathe in. I won't break. The monitor keeps its rhythm. Outside the hospital window, the city is doing what cities do at night, continuing without me, unaware that the person lying in this bed has already lived through the year ahead and is, for the first time, choosing to live it differently. I stopped sitting near her on Monday. This sounds small. It is not small. For 2 years, finding Mira in any room and orienting toward her was as automatic as breathing, a gravitational thing, the body doing what the body does when it has decided where home is. Stopping it requires the specific conscious effort of overriding something that has been running without supervision for a long time. I sit at the back of the lecture hall. Mira arrives 7 minutes later with Priya, scanning the room with the casual confidence of someone who expects the room to arrange itself correctly, which in her experience has always meant finding me already positioned in the third row, second from the aisle, available. She finds the third row. Second from the aisle. Student I do not know. I watch her scan continue until it reaches the back of the hall. She finds me. I look at my notebook. Not dramatically. Not with the performance of someone making a point. I just look at my notebook and write the date at the top of the page and wait for the lecture to begin. It is the most powerful thing I have done in 2 years. Mira does not sit near me. She takes a seat 4 rows in front of me and spends the first 20 minutes of the lecture turned slightly sideways in a posture that is not quite looking back and is not quite not looking back. I know this because I am watching, but I am watching the way you watch a thing you are studying rather than a thing you are hoping from. There is a difference. After the lecture, Kunal catches me on the path between buildings. Hey, he says, falling into step beside me with the ease of someone who has not yet updated his model of how this works. You left before I could talk to you this morning. I had to get to class, I say. You're always in class early, he says. You weren't today. Today was different, I say. He looks at me with the expression I used to read as friendly assessment and am now reading more accurately. You're being weird, he says. Since yesterday. What's going on? Nothing, I say. I'm just busy. With what? The project, I say. The one with my name on it. A beat. Right, he says. I've been meaning to talk to you about the methodology section. I had some thoughts. Send me your thoughts, I say. I'll consider them. He stops walking. I keep walking. Why are you acting proud all of a sudden? He says behind me. I turn. He is standing on the path with an expression I have not seen on him before, or not seen clearly, which is irritation wearing the mask of concern. I'm not acting proud, I say. I'm acting like someone who is working on his own project. We collaborate, he says. We talk about ideas, I say. I do the work. I turn back and keep walking and I feel him watching me for the next 20 steps and I count them and I do not turn around. That evening I open the shared drive where Kunal and I have exchanged documents throughout the year and I begin the documentation that I should have been doing from the beginning. File creation dates. Edit histories. The email threads where I sent drafts and received commentary. The version that has my thinking in it and Kunal's suggestions in the margins. The difference between originating an idea and refining someone else's. I save everything to a private folder on my personal drive. I timestamp my own copies. I write a log entry with the date and describe exactly what I am doing and why. I think about Professor Sen's expression on the stage in the year I am working to undo, and I work until midnight. Mr. Malhotra's office is in the part of the city that has always felt like it belongs to people who have prepared for things. Low buildings, professional quiet, the kind of street where documents are kept and consequences are managed. He called me yesterday. I did not question why I was not surprised by the call. He is in his 60s with the specific gravity of a man who has been holding something in trust for long enough that releasing it has become its own kind of weight. Your father left instructions, he says. Specific to your 23rd birthday. That was 8 months ago. I didn't know, I say. Your mother asked me to wait, he says. She felt the timing would affect your focus. She was trying to protect you. He slides a sealed envelope across the desk. And beside it, on a folded cloth, a house key with a worn brass tag. I open the envelope. My father's handwriting. I have not seen it in 4 years. I read slowly. He writes about the property, a modest house that has been held in trust. He writes about the account attached to it. Then he writes about me, in the specific way of a father who observed his son carefully and loved him and worried about him simultaneously. You are soft in the way that good people are soft, he writes. You give before you are asked and you trust before you are shown. I love this about you and I am afraid of it for you. Learn where you end and other people begin. That line is not selfishness. It is survival. I fold the letter. I put it in my jacket pocket. I hold the key. Arjun is on campus on Thursday. I know who he is before anyone introduces him. Myra's family has money and Arjun has the specific posture of someone who has always had money, which is not arrogance exactly but a settled quality, the ease of someone who has never had to calculate whether they belong in a room. He finds me between the main building and the library with the particular purposefulness of someone who planned this encounter. Arif, he says. Friendly. Warm. The warmth of a man who does not need to be hostile because he has already won. Arjun, I say. He smiles. I've heard about you. Mira mentioned you. I just wanted to introduce myself. A pause calibrated perfectly. And to say respectfully that she's going to be my wife. So whatever you're working toward, another pause, it's already finished. I look at him. I think about the stage, the microphone, the ring box. I'm not working toward anything involving Mira, I say. He studies my face for a moment, looking for the wound his words were supposed to open. He doesn't find it. That surprises him. I see it. Good, he says, still smiling. Then we understand each other. He walks away and I stand on the path with my father's letter in my pocket and the house key in my hand and the understanding that the betrayal I am working to survive was never improvised. It was planned. Mira knew. Kunal knew. And Arjun's presence here on campus, finding me specifically, means the circle is wider than I understood in the year I already died in. They have not shown their worst yet. I put the key in my pocket next to the letter. I go back to work. The competition sign-up sheet goes up on a Tuesday. I see it on the department board between a tutoring advertisement and a lost property notice. A simple printed page with the competition name and 12 lines for team members. Professor Sen's handwriting at the top. The kind of opportunity one walked past in my first life because I was spending my energy on proximity to Mira rather than proximity to my own ambitions. I sign my name on the second line. My handwriting is steadier than I expect. The first team meeting is Thursday in the seminar room that always smells like the dry erase markers Professor Sen prefers. 6 students around the table, including me. Sen sits at the head and looks at each person in turn with the assessment of someone who has been evaluating potential for long enough to do it quickly and accurately. I want each of you to take 3 minutes and argue for your strongest idea, he says. Not your safest idea. Your strongest. 5 people go before me. Good ideas. Competent presentations. The specific confidence of students who have been performing competence for long enough that it has become automatic. My turn arrives. My voice shakes on the first sentence. This is not metaphorical. It actually shakes, a slight unsteadiness in the register that anyone listening carefully will notice. I notice it. I do not stop. The gap in the current research, I say, and my voice finds its footing somewhere in the middle of the sentence and continues from there, is not in the data collection. It's in the interpretation framework. We're asking the wrong questions of the right information. I lay out the argument. All of it. The version I developed alone at my desk over the last year, the thinking that I shared with Kunal in late-night conversations and then watched attributed elsewhere, the work that has my fingerprints all the way down to the cellular level. I say it out loud in a room that is actually listening. Professor Sen's pen stops moving. When I finish, the room is quiet for a moment. Develop that, Sen says. In writing. By next Thursday. Yes, I say. I walk back to my apartment and sit at my desk and write for 3 hours without stopping. Nisha finds me in the library on Friday. She is in 2 of my courses and has the specific reputation of someone who observes things carefully and speaks only when the observation is worth sharing. She sits across from me without asking, which means she has decided the conversation is necessary. Kunal has been talking, she says. About what? I ask, though I can feel the shape of the answer. About you, she says. He's telling people you've been unstable. That the work you've been submitting isn't reflecting well on you. That he's been covering for you. The old panic arrives. I know it by its specific physical signature, the chest tightening, the thoughts accelerating toward the worst version of the story, the impulse to go find Kunal and confront him immediately and loudly in a way that would perfectly confirm the word unstable. I breathe. Okay, I say. Nisha watches me. You're not going to do anything? I'm going to do the right thing, I say. Which is different from the reactive thing. I open my laptop. I spend the next 2 hours assembling a document that I have been building in pieces for 3 weeks without fully naming what I was building. A clean timeline. Screenshots of file creation dates showing my work predating any collaboration. Email threads where I sent original drafts and received Kanal's commentary in reply, the original and the commentary existing in sequence that proves which came first. Version histories from the shared drive. The document is 12 pages when I finish. I email it to Professor Sen with a subject line that is plain and factual. Timeline of project work. For your records. I add one sentence in the body. I wanted you to have this documentation in context of some conversations I've heard are circulating. I send it before I can second-guess the sending. Sen's reply comes the next morning. 2 sentences, thank you for this. Can you come to my office at 3? At 3, his face is serious in the way of someone who has read something carefully and is recalibrating based on what they found. This is thorough, he says. The work is mine, I say. I wanted the record to reflect that. He nods slowly. I appreciate you bringing this to me directly. I leave his office feeling something I cannot immediately name. It takes me until I reach the building exit to identify it. It is the feeling of having handled something correctly. On Tuesday I am crossing the courtyard between the library and the science building when I hear Myra's voice from the far side of the hedge that separates the courtyard from the faculty parking area. Not raised. The specific tightness of someone arguing through clenched composure. I'm not trying to listen. I stop because the sound of her voice still has a physical effect on me that I am working to reclassify from attachment to information. I did what you asked, she says. I managed the situation. Why isn't it enough? A pause while whoever is on the phone responds. I know what the family expects, she says. I've always known. I've been doing everything. Her voice breaks slightly and then reassembles. I just want to know when it will be enough. I move past the hedge without looking at her. I think about the Mira I loved, which was a real thing. My love was real even if her reciprocation was managed. I think about the girl on the phone with the broken voice and the weight of expectations she did not choose. I feel sad for her. I do not stop walking. Kanal's mistake happens on a Thursday. He submits the project to the Intercollege Research Portal under his name. The full project. My methodology, my framework, my conclusion structure, the work I have been timestamping and documenting for 3 weeks with the specific intention of making exactly this moment survivable. Professor Sen's office receives an automatic duplicate detection flag because the portal cross-references with departmental submissions and my work is already in the departmental system under my name with timestamps that predate Kanal's submission by 8 weeks. The inquiry notice goes to both of us by Friday morning. I read mine in the library. I look up and across the reading room. Kanal is sitting 2 tables away. He received his notice at the same time I received mine. I can tell because his face has done something I have never seen it do before. It has lost its confidence completely. He looks at me. I hold his gaze for a long moment. I do not look away first. You kept records, he says. Not a question. I kept records, I say. The power shift is not loud. It does not arrive with music or drama or the satisfaction I imagined it would have in the year I spent approaching this moment from the wrong direction. It arrives like the truth arrives when it has been properly documented. Quietly. Completely. Without any room for an alternative version. The award notification comes from Professor Sen's office on a Wednesday morning. A formal email, department letterhead, the kind of language institutions use when they want something to feel significant. Outstanding research contribution, first-year graduate division. The ceremony is Friday evening at the Meridian Hall, which is the building the university uses when it wants an event to feel like an occasion. I read it twice. I reply that I will attend. I do not read the event details carefully enough on the first pass. I read them more carefully on the second pass, Thursday morning, when Nisha mentions in passing that the Meridian Hall has been booked for 2 events Friday evening, staggered by 2 hours. The engagement ceremony is the first event. The award ceremony is the second. I sit with this information for a moment. Then I book the tailor for a fitting on Thursday afternoon, because the suit I own is the suit I wore to my father's memorial 4 years ago and I have been meaning to replace it since before I died the first time. Friday evening arrives. The suit fits correctly. This is a small thing and I let it matter the appropriate amount, which is small. I take the broken watch from my bedside table and put it in my jacket pocket, which I have been doing every day since I woke up in this year, the weight of it a specific reminder that I carry by choice. The Meridian Hall lobby has the specific energy of 2 events running in adjacent spaces, the sound and light of a celebration leaking through the closed doors on the left side while the right side fills slowly with academic colleagues and faculty and the quieter ceremony of institutional recognition. I sign in at the award reception table. Professor Sin finds me within 2 minutes. He shakes my hand with the warmth of someone whose recalibration is complete, who has read a 12-page timeline and adjusted his understanding of a year's worth of events accordingly. I'm glad you're here, he says. Thank you for the recognition, I say. Thank you for the documentation, he says, which is the most Sin way of communicating what he means. I am speaking to a second-year student about the research when the door on the left side opens. Mira walks through it. She is dressed for an engagement ceremony, which means she is dressed for something she has been preparing for, the specific appearance of a person who knows they are going to be looked at and has made deliberate choices about what the looking will find. She is talking to Priya and her attention is on the conversation and she does not see me until she does. She stops. Priya takes 2 steps before noticing Mira is no longer beside her. Mira looks at me in the suit that fits correctly and the expression on her face does something I was not expecting, which is that it loses its composure completely for a moment. Not dramatically. Just the specific half-second of a person whose calculation failed because an element changed. She crosses to me. Oh wait. You came, she says. Her voice is quiet. Something in it that I could map in the old year onto hope and am now mapping more accurately onto surprise that my presence confirms something she needed confirmed. I came for the award, I say. Not for you. She blinks. Arav. Congratulations on the engagement, I say. I mean it without warmth and without cruelty, the neutral fact of a courtesy extended. She opens her mouth. Kunal arrives before she speaks. He has the energy of someone who has been managing a crisis for 2 weeks and is running out of the performance materials that crisis management requires. The inquiry is ongoing. The duplicate detection flag has expanded into a formal academic misconduct review. He has been called into meetings I was not invited to, which is the correct institutional response to a situation where one party has 12 pages of timestamped documentation and the other party has a submission date that postdates the original by 8 weeks. We need to talk, he says to me. Low and urgent. The voice of someone who wants a private negotiation. I don't think we do, I say. Arav. He steps closer. Whatever you think happened. I have the file dates, Kunal, I say. I have the email threats. I have the version histories. The conversation about what I think happened is already on record. He leans in. You're going to ruin everything. Kunal. The voice is not mine. Mr. Malhotra stands at the lobby entrance with a folder and the bearing of a man who arrived at exactly the moment his presence was required. He crosses the lobby with the unhurried pace of someone whose authority does not need velocity. I've been trying to reach you, he says to Kunal. Since Tuesday. Kunal's face changes. This isn't the place. You used my client's identity in a notarized document, Malhotra says with the flat precision of a man reading from a brief. Specifically, a signature authorization tied to a property trust. The document was filed 6 weeks ago. The lobby has gone quiet in the way of spaces where something significant is happening in plain view. What document? Mira says. The property transfer authorization, Malhotra says. Someone required Arav's signature to access information about the trust account. The signature on the document is not his. Kunal says, I needed to know if the inheritance was real. You needed, I say, to know how much I was worth. The sentence lands in the lobby and sits there. Priya looks at Mira. Mira looks at Kunal. Kunal looks at the folder in Malhotra's hand with the expression of someone watching a door close. Why didn't you just tell him about the money? Priya says to Mira quietly but not quietly enough. Because Arjun, Mira starts then stops. Because Arjun's family needed me not to have complicated loyalties, she finishes, in the voice of someone who has been holding a sentence at pressure for a long time and has finally run out of the energy to contain it. The lobby is very still. I look at Mira. She looks back at me with an expression I have never seen on her before, not in 2 years of loving her and not in the year I spent dying from the consequence of that love. She looks like someone who has arrived at a destination and found it is not what she expected to find and cannot identify the point at which the wrong turn was made. I didn't think you'd actually leave, she says. Her voice breaks on the last word. After everything I thought you'd stay. I thought you'd keep trying. I reach into my jacket pocket. The broken watch is in my palm. The cracked face. The stopped hands. The time I died, preserved in a stopped mechanism that has been carrying the reminder every day since I woke up in this year. I look at it for a moment. Then I look at her. I died once, I say. Begging for love on a stage in front of 400 people. Begging for a yes from someone who had already decided I wasn't worth one. I close my fingers around the watch. I'm not dying twice. Myra's tears arrive in the specific way of things that were coming long before the moment they arrive. I put the watch back in my pocket. I turn to Professor Sin, who has been standing near the award ceremony in trance with the expression of a man who has witnessed something and is carefully not inserting himself into it. "I'm ready whenever you are," I say. "Of course," he says. I walk toward the right side of the building. Behind me I hear Mira say my name once. I do not turn around. Not to punish her. Not to perform the leaving. Because there is nothing in that direction that belongs to the future I am building, and the future I am building has been waiting long enough for me to stop looking back. The award is a small plaque with my name on it. I hold it and I think about my father's letter. Where you end and other people begin. I think about the ring box cracking on the pavement. I think about waking up choking in the dark with a broken watch on the table and 1 year to do everything differently. I did everything differently. The plaque is real. The work is mine. The documentation exists. The house key is in my desk drawer at home and the account is being transferred and Malhotra is filing the identity fraud report in the morning. And Mira is standing in an engagement ceremony lobby learning, too late, that the person she thought would always wait has already arrived somewhere she does not have a seat. I walk out of the Meridian Hall into the night air. I do not look like a man who survived something. I look like a man who built something. That is the difference. That is the whole difference.